All right, let's talk now about love and relationships and how the Stoics would react to those. How would the Stoics react to love and relationships, Sam?
I mean, this is a question that I get all the time because, of course, if you're talking about only focus on what's within your control, how do you then make yourself vulnerable? There's two things I say in response. So one of these quotes, Epictetus says, tell yourself when you're kissing your, paraphrasing, when you're kissing your wife or child at night, tell yourself this is immortal. Some people come to me and say, wait, you're going to think of the mortality of your child? Are you sick? What's wrong with you? Now, of course, the reason Epictetus is saying this is that we should be grateful for what we have while we have it. Becoming overly attached in an unhealthy way where we just couldn't even think about the loss of something would lead to a lot of pain and disturbance of tranquility later in life. Now, of course, bereavement is very, very difficult. What this quote from Epictetus would allow people to do is to have those attachments and be grateful for the time that we have with people whilst we have them. Another question that is put forward is, well, how can the Stoics have meaningful relationships? Aren't these guys just a bit, distant from people? Seneca says, once you've admitted someone to your friendship, like you should be careful who you trust, but once you have admitted someone to your friendship, welcome him heart and soul and speak as unreservedly with him as you would with yourself. Now that's not just that can be romantic relationships, that can be friendships in general, but clearly that is advocating openness, love, friendship, because a lot of people confuse Stoicism with small letter Stoicism, this idea of repression of emotions. That's not the true philosophy of Stoicism. In terms of love, in terms of relationships, friendship, Stoicism absolutely advocates for that. Indeed, Stoicism is a cosmopolitan philosophy which encourages us to help others and, like I say, to love and to respect one another. So you can love with healthy attachments. That's the Stoic ideal.
And there's a really nice quote from Happy by Derren Brown, again, which is one of my favorite books of all time, when he talks about kind of this idea of love and relationships. He says, we can look at the things and the people we value each day with the knowledge that we will most likely lose them at some point and love them all the more for that. One day your best friend may move away and you may never see each other again. Loved ones may die or become estranged. Your partner, despite your promises to love each other forever, may one day leave you. In fact, it is inevitable. Through death or choice, your closest relationships will end. He then goes on to say that remembering this invites us to express our feelings to those we love now while we can, to never take them for granted, and to not regret, when it's too late, that they never knew how important they were to us.
Absolutely, and this is a question that I regularly get in relation to romantic relationships. For example, how would a Stoic deal with a breakup, or how can a Stoic maintain a relationship if they're not 100% in there? And of course the idea is that what this encourages us to do is to actually be grateful for the relationships that we have and to cherish each day. You're much less likely to want to squabble over meaningless things that we often argue about in relationships, whether that be friendships or romantic relationships, and much more likely to appreciate the times that you have together. And those techniques such as journaling and so on, we'd encourage you to go back and look at those techniques in relation to this. Those techniques like journaling, premeditating a breakup, for example, can provide a really powerful framework for gratitude.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key thing. Just like gratitude, it's almost the catch-all solution to so many different problems in life. Like if you were just to kind of take a minute to be grateful for the situation, for the stuff that you've got, for the relationships, you realize that most things, kind of when you do that perspective exercise, most things fade away into irrelevance, and actually you can focus on the things that matter, the things that you're grateful for, rather than quibbling about the details.
And I just add, you definitely shouldn't kick yourself if you find yourself really worrying about a breakup and things. Those things are absolutely natural. The Stoics talk about this idea of a Stoic sage. Epictetus said, I'm like a patient in a hospital bed advising you, the patient next to me. We're all going to trip up. Only the Stoic sage, which is a fictional idea, could perfectly do this all the time. Having that role model helps us to move towards that kind of level of tranquility and happiness.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's an area in which often people get hung up about Stoicism, about any other philosophy, even about religion, is that, or your workout plans, diets, kind of this sense of perfectionism that if I can't embody these ideals 100%, then I'm not even going to try. And often one of the criticisms I get, one of the responses I get when I talk to people about Stoicism is that, oh, but I can't not feel anything when I have a breakup. It's like, I'm not saying don't feel anything. I'm saying, imagine how the Stoics would do it. You've got these techniques. If you want to use them, then you can use them. If you want to experience a negative emotion of a breakup, then sure, you absolutely can, and no one's stopping you from doing that. But if it gets to the point where it's, starting to infringe on your activities of daily living, as we would say in medicine, at that point, you've got the tools you need. You've got the dichotomy of control, you've got the premeditating adversity, you've got the idea of journaling, you've got the perception stuff. You've got all these different techniques that you can use to essentially talk yourself out of experiencing those negative emotions if you don't want to experience them. But I'm not saying at all, like, don't be sad about it. Sometimes it's nice to have a good cry once in a while.
Absolutely. The Stoics certainly don't encourage repression. Indeed, Cato, one of the Stoic heroes, is reported to have wailed and cried every time he heard of one of his fighters being killed in battle. It's absolutely not the case that Stoicism advocates repression of tears, of emotions. It's just about using those techniques, essentially these self-care techniques, to then move forward when we can. Because as we said in the last video, you can either accept something or you can resent it. And we're going to be moving on to acceptance later in the course, aren't we?
Absolutely. And so that brings us to the end of this video about love, relationships and stuff. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.